Good morning, my renegades. Welcome back to Rogue Radio. My name is Sarah Jane, and today we're gonna be doing a Renegade Times episode. I know it's been 2 months since I've done an episode. That's because your girl doesn't hardly get sick, but she got sick, and yeah. I won't go too into it. I might be clearing my throat throughout this episode, so please forgive me. I kind of woke up and, realized, okay, slept with the window open. I assure you that I am better, so. It took a long time for me to recover, and I'm just glad I got my voice back. I know it doesn't sound like it right now, because I just woke up, y'all, so I'm just thankful that I got my voice back. Nobody can keep girl down, not even a little bit of a sickness, whatever it was. I didn't know what I had. I just know that it was like, let's just say it was really bad at that point. And it took a while, almost about a month and a half to get me better. So, and after that, 4 other things started happening. After that, it was one thing after another. So, I am okay now. Anybody who did pray, who knew that I was sick, who knew that I was going through some stuff, thank you for the prayers and the thoughts. 'Cause it worked. I'm better. But let's get into the trenches and sort out this, waist deep bullshit that I left. And I'm sorry, I need to stop cussing. I do. The abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So, excuse me. I don't want to. That is one of my goals, is not to cuss anymore on my channel. I don't know why I do it most of the time, but let's just get into this. First is politics. I like to get into that real quick and jump right out, so let's just start with the first story. Most of the stuff that I found has come from Daily Wire. Most of my sources is from Daily Wire and YouTube, so I will cite my sources as we go. So, apparently there's trouble in paradise with Barack Obama and Michelle Obama. And we're just going to get right into that and see what's going on. Let's just start with the less surprising piece of news. Obama and his apparent wife, if you can even call her that, rumors rotating about her alleged divorce. Michelle Obama addressed the rumor that her husband of 32 years, a rumor of her husband of 32 years could be edging his way to divorce. The new author had talked about the rumors on Sophia Bush's Work in Progress podcast. Rumors sprouted after she didn't attend Jimmy Carter's funeral in December and also didn't attend Trump's inauguration, but her husband was there solo. The interesting thing is that when I say no, for the most part, people are like, I get it and I'm okay. Michelle said for E! News. That's the thing that we as women think. We struggle with disappointing people. I mean, it's so much so that this year people were, they couldn't even fathom that I was making a choice for myself, that they had to assume that my husband and I are divorcing. Yeah, I kind of get her perspective, because when you're in the public eye, people will start seeing stuff when you're missing from certain events. They're like, oh, okay, so what's going on, Please, trust me, I'm not taking a Democrat's side on anything, but honestly, I kind of see her point. let's see, she also goes on to say that she is going to start making some big girl decisions for herself, and that it's a big commitment to grow in her own way despite the public eye on her and who they expect her to be. Barack Obama didn't address the rumors about trouble in paradise, but he did mention his marriage while speaking to Hamilton College president Stephen Tepper during an event. He said, "I was in a deep deficit with my wife, so I have been trying to dig myself out of that hole by doing occasionally fun things." So, from what I can tell so far, Obama did some weird stuff in order to piss her off. Maybe, I don't know. There was another rumor that I'd like to address because it's so ludicrous that I had to add it in here. Apparently there's a rumor about Obama and Jennifer Aniston getting it on, you know? They be dating and behind Michelle's back. This is an alleged rumor. Please don't take it as fact, but I thought it was fun to talk about, so let's go ahead and talk about that real quick. There is no legit evidence about the rumor being true, but there are some random pieces of info that I did find. Apparently, there was an event in D.C. where Obama was at a restaurant and Jen was also there. Some people say that she was with him, but the video that is shown doesn't show her in the video at all. They just know that her presence was there at the restaurant as well. There's an alleged DM that was leaked saying that, and I quote, "He is with Jennifer Aniston. My old manager, now a friend, is connected to her inner circle with gathering of friends. The affair came up casually, and Jen herself admitted it. They were with a psychic, but it's not a secret among her closest friends." I'm not sure why they mentioned the psychic part. I mean, just admitting it, I don't know, is enough, I guess. I don't know. Jen did address the rumor on Jimmy Kimmel, saying that she isn't mad at it, about the rumor, but also said that it was not true. The Democratic Party would be scandalized if this is actually true. It's been forever since we have seen something like this. I'm sure many people on the Democratic Party, as well as the Republican Party, we're not all innocent, has cheated or had some sort of affair that, the public doesn't know about. But is being publicized like this hasn't happened since, what I personally recall, since the Clinton scandal with that lady, Monica Lewinsky, is that her name? I'm pretty sure. Whether this is true or not is yet to be seen. As far as the rumors of the divorce, it does seem like there is some sort of struggle in their marriage, and if it's Jen or another woman, or even if Michelle is just throwing her husband under the bus because she cheated, it could go any way, and it's possible. The divorce does sound realistic from what Barack has said about him being in the deficit with his wife, but it sounds like he's in the doghouse at the moment. Up is the my bad. It started recording a little late. Good thing I didn't start anything yet. Tariff negotiations is the next one. Let's go ahead and talk about that. 70 countries have reached out to Trump as he unveiled his Liberation Day on tariffs last week. The estimate comes from Bessent and other members of his staff, saying that over 50 countries have contacted the U.S. to negotiate trade. I can tell you that there are 50, 60, maybe almost 70 countries now who have approached us. Bessent also had said those discussions may go on for months, saying that it may be a busy April, May, and June. many nations, facing a 10% tariff baseline, and in some cases even higher as part of Liberation Day tariffs Trump announced at the White House. Trump has even warned China that he would impose a 50% additional levy if China doesn't withdraw their retaliatory tariff. Alright, Trump. Alright, Daddy Trump. Trump's administration say that they are busy getting a hold on the trade deficits that the U.S. has been enduring for years, as well as the non-tariff cheating. Benjamin Netanyahu met with Trump on Monday, telling him that he pledged that he would end his trade deficit in his country with the United States. This came after he had spoken with the Prime Minister of Japan, which, just like Israel, is facing new tariffs above the baseline and expects negotiations. Bessent goes on to say that Japan is a very important military ally and economic ally and is very important to the U.S., so Japan is expected to get priority since Japan responded rather quickly to the announcement. It's going to be busy and very... it's going to be very busy, and Trump gave himself maximum negotiating leverage, and just when he has achieved the maximum leverage, he's willing to start talking, Bessent added. So yes. So in other horrifying news, Kamala Harris has announced that she will be running as something in the future. Former vice president, in one of her appearances after the failed attempt to win the election for president, has announced that she's sticking to politics and said, "We can't go out there and do battle if we don't take care of ourselves and each other. I'll see you out there. I'm not going anywhere." She didn't mention any political position she was aiming for, but it's been said that she is seriously focused on becoming governor of California. Good, stay over there. Damn. She would be adding to the pool of names that want that position as well. She doesn't mention Trump's name, but she does comment on the current administration that's in charge, saying, "There is a sense of fear that is taking hold in our country, and I understand it. These are the things that we are witnessing each day in these last few months in our country, and it understandably creates great sense of fear because, there are many things that we know would happen. Many things." Okay. Pretty vague, honey. She also had to say, "I told you so," when talking about her predictions about another Trump presidency on the campaign trail, saying, "I'm not going to say I told you so. I swore I wasn't going to say that." Well, Harris, you just did, and I don't think anyone cares except for your Kamala coconut dancers. Remember that dance during the presidential race where the Democrat citizens basically made a dance for Kamala? It was called the Kamala coconut. I don't understand. It's all because everyone was doing like the Trump dance, so they had to counter it with a coconut dance. I don't know why. It's stupid. In other news, my friends, scientists claim that they have brought the direwolf species back from extinction after 13,000 years, and it's all because of genetic engineering. The Texas-based biotechnology and genetic engineering company Colossal Biosciences, they basically produced 3 direwolf pups, and they were born last fall. The species became popular because of the 8-season series on HBO, Game of Thrones. I love that too. I am a Targaryen. Be quiet. Yeah. Anyway, which inspired the company to make the dire wolf a reality. Listen, that's cute. That's cute as heck, okay? Have you seen these things? They're the cutest things I've ever seen since a baby cheetah. And that's cute too. Much, much cuter. But anyway. The names of the pup is Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi, which of course are GOT characters. Our team took DNA from a 13,000-year-old tooth and a... Did I type that right? Tooth and the 72,000-year-old skull. Okay. From a healthy dire wolf puppies. Colossal CEO Ben Lamb said, per the New York Post, it was once said any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Today, our team gets to unveil some of the magic that they were working on, and it's a broader impact on conservation. Okay. How big do these things get, though? If they're dire wolves, I'm thinking like Fenrir big, you know? Or like Twilight big, you know? Because they were really big wolves as far as like mythology goes. I don't know about reality, but the first image that comes to mind is that big wolf that Kristen Stewart decides to lean up against, like, you know, in Twilight. Like, I want one of those things, okay? I'm not a big Twilight person, but I want a big wolf. That'd be freaking cool. I want a giant wolf. I mean, nobody would mess with me after that. I would love that. Anyway, excuse my imagination. The team used somatic cell transfer to clone high-quality cell lines, which were transferred to a donor egg cells and then implanted into a surrogate. 2 pups were born in October of last year and 1 in January of this year. The company made headlines after cloning a woolly mouse, which they made by injecting mammoth DNA into mice to make them grow thick coats, and also wants to bring the woolly mammoth back to life in 2028. Okay. Paleontologists Louis Mation, I'm sorry if I butchered your name, told the New York Times that the dire wolves lived in North America during the Ice Age and were contemporaries of mastodons and saber-toothed tigers. Their closest living relatives were gray wolves, which are about 25% smaller. Dire wolves also have more muscular jaws and shoulders. The company's announcement has inspired many reactions online, ranging from excitement to skepticism. The official Jurassic World account posted its response to X saying, "We see no possible way this could go wrong." Okay. I saw dire wolves online, and I have to say they're adorable. The 3 white dire wolves that they had engineered. And I think that some exceptions can be made when it comes to certain animals, but why on earth would you want to clone a woolly mammoth and make it survive in 2025? I can only imagine how weirded out the dire wolf must feel being brought back into existence, but the woolly mammoth is going to take one look at this world around it and run loose and maul people. I'm sorry. You want the woolly mammoth to look at a transgender person and be like, "Listen, I'm gonna go jump off a cliff. This isn't the civilization that I was expecting." They expect the Ice Age, okay? Their instincts is gonna expect the Ice Age. They are not going to expect the technology. You expect them to adapt to this world in 2025? Listen, sir, I'm cool with a dire wolf because one of these days I'm gonna adopt one if it's available. Okay, that'd be cool. A woolly mammoth, though, that thing's bigger than us. Like, stop. That's my mentality, I guess, about it. Sorry to throw trans people under the bus. That was just like the first thought that I had. Like, you can't, like, besides that, you can't deny that society right now is, messed up. So, yeah, woolly mammoth sees this and is like, I'm supposed to live here? Come on. There's just some prehistoric animals you shouldn't bring back because the humans now just don't know how to handle that type of power and strength of an animal like that. It's playing with fire in a bad way, and I can see this going south very quickly. While these genetically engineered wolves exhibit physical and behavioral traits reminiscent of dire wolves, they are not true dire wolves. Well, no shit. I'm sorry. I'm sorry because the genetic modifications introduce specific dire wolf characteristics into a gray wolf genome, resulting in animals that are essentially gray wolves with selected phenotypic traits of dire wolves, rather than exact replicas of the extinct species. But the thing is that I did see the video of this as well, and the woman who talked about it, she said, because the DNA is in the gray wolf, it makes that a dire wolf. I don't know. Just because, like, they said that the gray wolf is very close to the dire wolf as well, so it kind of doesn't matter if it's not a real dire wolf being brought back to life. It's still a dire wolf in a sort of a sense. So this isn't life finding a way, it's human interference, which I totally agree with. But then again, I have exceptions. I mean, if it's cute and cuddly, I want it, okay? I'm very biased when it comes to animals. They have to be beautiful. But when it comes to, like, raptors and dinosaurs, like, why? Don't bring those things back. Humans will be extinct. Anyway, someone forgot the lesson of just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should. Or, in other terms, did they step back to ask a question, why are we doing this? Yeah, why y'all never would have paid it without you. I would. Well, you did lose it all, Martin Sapp. Let's just go ahead and get into the story. Alright. Oh my goodness. You know I love talking about any corrupt ministry or pastor, so let's just talk about Marvin Sapp. Alright, gospel star Marvin Sapp is in the hot seat now that a video of his live stream went viral for locking his congregation in the sanctuary until he gets $40,000 donated. Because of your acknowledgement in word, there is an obligation that is attached. An acknowledgement in biblical days, they offered livestock, grain, and that's the type of currency. That was a type of currency. Note, if you will, I did not say money. But sir, I just quoted him. That was something that he talked about. He's talking about, like, how there's an acknowledgement in biblical days when it comes to an offering. He's building up to that offering, basically. Alright, but sir, you didn't have to. Most of the assumed offering in church is money, no matter the excuse given. I've never seen a church in my day that offered a goat. If there was, I would really question the sanity of the pastor, but you saying that you didn't mention money doesn't excuse the action of you wanting money. He goes on to say, this is what God is saying for at least 1,000 of you in the building, and this is simple. I'm not going to challenge you like the way Bishop did, but I know that there is 1,000 individuals under the sound of my voice that can do what I'm about to challenge you to do. Did you just say that you weren't going to challenge your congregation like Bishop did? But yet you did challenge them. Alright, interesting. This is simple. 1,000 people giving what I am about to challenge, it will be $20,000. So, as I kept researching this topic, he wasn't telling, I don't know why I assumed this at first, that he expected like each person to donate $20,000. He wanted people to, like 1,000 people, to donate $20, just $20 to the church in person and online. That would give him $40K. So, but the problem is that never mind. I haven't even gotten to that part, so let's just go ahead and just keep talking. I believe that leaders lead not only in time, not only in talent, but also in treasure. I was told a long time ago that it costs to sit up here. From what I know about pastors, they mainly live off the donations that their people give them, but they also have a salary. They also can have a salary set by the board of the church and its leaders, and get some pension, housing allowance, and some even start their business by writing, speaking at events, and some may have another job on the side to be paid, but that's mostly pastors with smaller churches, if they have like a job on the side. And that's pretty cool. Like, I've never seen a pastor in my day actually like working at a McDonald's. Like, I'd see that as humility. I would love that. But yeah, there's many ways that a pastor can get money and get paid. So even though donations and offering and tithing is like a big thing, it's not the only avenue that they can get money, from their work. So, but since Marvin is a mega pastor, and you know how I can't stand mega pastors, they get greedy. It does say that the love of all money is the... I'm sorry, why am I misquoting the Bible? Give me a second. It does say that the love of money is the root of all evil. There we go. 1 Timothy 6:10. And Sapp did make it known that his deep love for money that day. Does it cost to preach in certain cases? Yes, especially if the pastor is doing global work. And most churches that aren't mega will have multiple pastors trained under them in order to help take care of that certain issue if it arises. Because I'm not going to sit here and say that being a pastor isn't a big responsibility. It is. It's a serious responsibility. It is something that people don't realize is a really exhausting job. My husband, he does preach sometimes. He's not a pastor yet, but I've seen how stressful it can be for him to do that. I'm not going to get too much into that either, because that's him, but being a pastor at a church, I've seen that. I've seen how exhausting that can be for a person, and it's not an easy job, definitely not. But a lot of pastors of mega churches like to take the responsibility on themselves so that they get the money and won't spread the wealth to the other pastors if they have pastors. I'm sure they do get paid like the staff do, but they don't get paid as much as the mega pastor. That's what I'm saying. most of the money will go to the pastor of a mega church. And that's one of the big problems, is that they will take the responsibility so much on their shoulders that they won't have any pastor studying under them or working under them in order to help take the load off of their shoulders, because they're like, no, I want the money, I want the glory, I want this, I want that. It's like taking on the responsibility because of greed, and it's not okay. But we've heard that even okay, hang on. Yeah, we've heard that even said by Kenneth Copeland, who said that he would have to stop 65% of what he was doing if he didn't get the jet that he also wanted. There's going to be a lot of quoting in this story, so I said close them doors. Close the doors. Ushers, close the doors. So this is the close the doors moment that got Marvin Sapp in trouble. He basically closed the doors, and you'll find out his excuse for that, which I debunk. But he basically locked in the congregation at this gathering. So it wasn't his church. I thought it was his church, but it was a convention, and it was like a pastoral gathering. There was a number of pastors and leaders that were donating that night. So there was a lot of people that were involved, and not just him. But anyway, he goes on to urge the ushers to close the doors, keeping the congregation inside the sanctuary. You all ain't going no place but the restaurant, he goes on to say. Sir, you have no room to talk. I know you eat a lot too, okay? Why are you shaming your people? What your people do with that money in their pockets is no business to you unless they give it to you. And he made sure that it was given to him. Not him, but to whatever quota he said. It's a lot. It's a lot. He goes on to say that there's 1,000 online, and I've talked about this already, that, you know, they donate $20, 1,000 people donate $20 online and in person, and they'll get $40,000, and that'll be like the quota of that day. But anyway, he rambles on, adding that if the people standing with him on stage, the head pastors, like the leaders of the people who were leading that night and preaching that night, could donate $100, because it costs to sit up here. Okay. Well, I'm sure it does, but holding your congregation hostage isn't going to make them give it to you any faster. You basically held them for ransom. Didn't one of your loyal colleagues donate? Oh, hang on. No, I said 4 million, but I think it's 2.9 million. Let me see. I corrected myself, but he hushes the church and tells them that giving is worship. I didn't know kidnapping was worship either, Sapp. I believe that not only is tithing worship with money, but I also believe that you don't need to give it to a pastor for God to see it. Giving it to the needy, helping a small church, or help, fix something in their building, or even giving it as a love offering to someone is something I believe is much more effective than giving it to a mega pastor like Sapp. Tithing isn't just money either, it's your time and love as well. You even said that. Leaders don't just lead with talent or in time, but in treasure. Okay, we get it. But the problem is that it feels like most of the time that mega pastors sit up there and preach the word and the gospel and all that stuff, that most of the time they want to lead with treasure because that's the most material thing, and that's the thing. Like, they will run themselves into the ground in order to just get like a few $1 million, and that's exactly what they did here. But I'm gonna get in my truck and go to my hotel. I got some fruit. I'm doing fruit now, fruit and water. I'm like, why are you talking? Why are you talking about what you'll do after all this money is given? It's like you don't even care. You just want it. You just want this money to be given, and then you'll be gone, and then you'll get a cut later. But yeah, he just bragged to his church members. Very, very classy. I think the $1 million donation was given during the hostage situation, and Sapp opened the doors. The whole night looked like robbery. Plenty of other pastors that joined in that night was challenging the audience for $800 for new beginnings in their life and closure and so on. So they were also auctioning off blessings. Like, if it costed that much just to sit up there, why weren't you selling your books and charging in other different ways at the convention? Anyway, we're gonna get into his response, and I break that down as well. So his response is what we'll get into now. So let's see. Recently a clip has gone viral of me challenging 2,000 individuals, virtually and in person, to plant a seed of $20 during an international gathering held at a convention center with over 4,000 people in attendance that evening, plus virtual viewers. In that moment, I also challenged leadership to lead by example by sowing $100 that evening, and I personally gave much more. Okay, I hear the bragging again, sir. Some have taken issue with the particular moment when I instructed the ushers to close rather firmly to close the doors during the offering. To those unfamiliar with the church context or who may not regularly attend worship gatherings, has been misinterpreted as holding hostage and or as well as offensive. That is never my intent. The truth is that when finances are being received in any worship gathering, it is one of the most vulnerable and exposed times for both finance and security teams. Movement during this sacred exchange can be distracting and at times risky. My directive was not about control, It was about creating a safe, focused, and reverent environment for those choosing to give and for those handling resources. My response to that part, that doesn't actually help you, since you shushed the members and told them that giving was worship, and even went on to say that you were going back to your hotel and eating fruit like some spoiled king. I have spent 29 years in a church, and I have done all the jobs that you can think of. I've even done offering once or twice when I was younger, and though I was never part of security, I do know that there are routes mapped out anywhere in a service that is given for the money to be transported to the right secure area. And I'll tell you a little story about that and why I know that. When I was a teen, I remember passing the security team that was transporting the offering, and my stepdad was part of that. And I, so politely just said, "Oh, excuse me." They did not move. It was like hitting a brick wall. And that was just a learning experience for me of how they transport offering from the sanctuary to where it needs to be. It's like a secret service, basically. They surround the money, and they go ahead and they try to transport it as securely as possible, making sure that nobody is able to penetrate that wall. And, rightfully so, that does happen. I'm sure many churches have been robbed before. But as far as like my experience and what I've seen, it's a very, he's right, it's a very like vulnerable time to transport the money, but it's your fault for one, you closed all the doors of the sanctuary, meaning you did it to keep the people in, not because of, the sacred exchange and moving money and everything like that. A door has to be open. An avenue has to be mapped out in order for the security team and the finance team to transport the money where it needs to go. And because of that, because you did not do that, you put not only your congregation in danger, but also the security team, because from what I know, from the amateuristic way that you decided to do this, shows me that you had no idea how any of that was transported and had no preparation of where or how this was going to be mapped out. There was no route, there was no way at all that this money was going to be transported safely, because you closed all the avenues that the security team needed to get out of. So that was irresponsible. Not just for Marvin Sapp. Marvin Sapp, yes, is the focal point, but all of the other pastors should have helped the security team, like, before the setup, to be like, okay, well, this is the route, this is where you need to be, this is where the money needs to go. That's how it's supposed to be. There's routes that should be mapped out for every time a service is held for the security team to transport the money safely. And because of that, you closed all the avenues, you closed all the doors. My church has never closed the doors, the church that I had left, but had never closed the doors for any worship offering ever. And that's because the security team need to leave, go down the stairs, take the route to wherever the money needs to be transported to. So, and because of that, because of the fact that he just closed the doors, he's just like, okay, nope, we're keeping everybody in, including the security team. The security team needs to give too, Unfortunately, in the social media age, snippets are easily shared without context, and assumptions are quickly made without understanding the full picture. The conferences have budgets, churches have budgets, and people have budgets, as the assigned ministerial gift. I knew I was going to mispronounce that. For this international gathering, one of my responsibilities was to help raise the conference budget. That's not manipulation, that's stewardship. Okay, whatever. Again, I'm sure that churches have budgets and all, but the way you go about it was truly messed up. You still locked a congregation in the building, and there should have been a plan and routes for the security team if your excuse was even true. That's not just your fault, but everyone involved with the gathering. And why didn't you charge tickets if there was a budget to be met in the first place? Like, they didn't charge tickets. They should have charged the tickets. They should have done that. They should have sold their books, their material, all of that. It was like they just decided to set up a tent and be like, give me your money. It's dumb. And the pastors of a church just got a $1.2 million grant that day as well, so I have no idea why this was even necessary. In Chronicles 29, we find, this is him talking, this is his response. So we find a powerful moment where David, preparing for the building of the temple, challenges the people to give. He starts by giving of his own treasure over and above what he had already set aside. Then he calls on the leaders to do the same. What happened next? The people gave willingly and generously. In fact, they gave so much that a record was kept of each gift, and ultimately David had to tell the people to stop giving because the need had been exceeded. I get that, but I also think that I don't think David put a price range on it either, and he even told the people to stop. But anyway, the Bible says they gave gold, silver, bronze, and iron, and precious stones. Specific amounts were recorded not because God needed their money, but because the people needed to show their commitment to the vision, and because stewardship demands accountability. So when someone challenges people to give a specific amount, it is not unbiblical. It is not manipulation. It is an order. So it is so consistent, or it is consistent with Scripture. But the thing is, sir, is that I'm sure that David did not lock people in against their will in order for that need to be met. These people willingly gave. They willingly gave. Your excuse about the security team and everything does not make any sense, because you closed off every avenue that they could have taken to transport this money safely. And not only that, you got a $1.2 million grant, so I'm sure you got a cut of that as well. And then the other pastors pledged, made the congregation give an $800 giving as well. So I mean, hang on, I'm gonna do the math. So I did the math. Hopefully I did it correctly, because calculators and such. You get a $1.2 million grant. Add $40K, which you did meet that night. You met the $40K because you opened the doors. You're like, okay, cool, we got that. But then your other pastors also charged about $800 from the congregation as well. That's about $841.2 million that you shook down from the congregation, along with your virtual leaders. Virtual members that were watching. What more do you need? That's a lot of money. So this next story is much more serious than the other one, so I'm going to go ahead and try to cover everything. I know I don't have a lot of time, but so Austin Metcalf, a high school junior in Texas, was stabbed in the heart by Karmelo, a black student who attended a different school. According to the arrest warrant, Anthony was in the wrong tent at a track meet for reasons unclear. Metcalf told him to leave, and Anthony dared Metcalf to touch him. Metcalf apparently touched Anthony or his backpack, and Anthony proceeded to take out a knife and from his backpack and killed Metcalf. He stabbed him in the heart, and I guess he died in his twin brother's arms. So after that, the police say that he threw the weapon away, and when the police asked Anthony what happened, he admitted that he stabbed Metcalf, and then asked if his actions could be a form of self-defense. There obviously hasn't been a trial yet in this case, yet Karmelo Anthony, like anyone else accused of a crime, enjoys the legal presumption of innocence under the Constitution. Unless the police and all the witnesses engaging in the single most organized conspiracy to frame a criminal defendant that's ever been undertaken in the history of this country for no apparent reason, then there is clearly no justification for Karmelo Anthony to kill Austin Metcalf. There is no real reason for him to bring a deadly weapon to a track meet of all places and kill an unarmed teen and then attempt to hide the evidence. The fact alone is that he had to hide the weapon, and it tells me that he knew he was in trouble and did something wrong. Over the past few days, that kind of defense is exactly what has emerged. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, they ended up... There's a lot of people that are defending Karmelo with his actions of killing this teen boy. Despite the overwhelming evidence in this case, tens of thousands of people have now publicly declared that in essence Metcalf had it coming. This sentiment isn't based on forensic evidence or new witness testimony or anything like that. Instead, the defense of Anthony is based on the fact that Anthony is black and Metcalf is white. That is awful. Just because a teen is white doesn't mean that he deserved. Doesn't mean that he doesn't deserve justice for his death. Stop defending the color of a killer. And start understanding that the color shouldn't be defended. It's the actions of the person with that color that needs to be punished to the fullest extent of the law. Tariq Nasheed, who describes himself as a fundamental black American, posted a suspected white supremacist named Austin Metcalf, pictured with his twin, and the picture just depicts him in army outfits with his twin brother with some guns. I don't know whether or not he was trying to join the army or not, or if he was hunting, but nowadays everyone wants to just put supremacist along with the color white, which I don't find at all okay. But allegedly demanded honor student Karmelo to give up his seat like he was in the Jim Crow era. Karmelo defended himself from the alleged threat the Daniel Penny case set as precedent. If Kyle Rittenhouse was justified in using lethal self-defense and Daniel Penny was justified in using lethal self-defense, then Karmelo Anthony is justified in using self-defense against alleged bullies who instigated the altercation, correct? That's what Nasheed posted on X. Metcalf was called a suspected white supremacist, which there is no evidence of. The word white isn't good enough for some people now. They have to put supremacist to get noticed by anyone, and it's sad. They don't even care that that their statements don't even make sense when they just hate him because he is white. A human telling another human that he is in the wrong tent at a track meet is basically reinventing Jim Crow. How interesting. Nasheed's defense makes half-hearted comparison to the Kyle Rittenhouse and the Daniel Penny case, never mind the fact both Rittenhouse and Penny were repeatedly threatened with lethal force before they responded in kind, which is why juries acquitted both men. Also, never mind the fact that Tariq Nasheed thinks both Penny and Rittenhouse should be in prison, which means, by his own logic, Anthony should be too. So a lot of this I had actually copied and pasted. There are some of my words that got in here. I just there was a lot to this case, and I didn't want to skip anything, so this is directly from Daily Wire. But in reality, as those cases demonstrated, lethal force is the appropriate response to someone pointing a loaded gun in your face, or a violent felon who's terrorizing a subway car and he yells, "I'm going to kill you and I'm prepared to go to jail for life." On the other hand, lethal force is not the appropriate response to a student touching your backpack during a track meet. The only person who could possibly be confused about this or pretend to be confused as someone who is seeking and as desperately as he possibly can to justify the murder of a white minor at the hands of a black killer. That is the only explanation for this kind of reasoning, and or lack thereof. We are witnessing the endorsement of racial violence on a very large scale. To give another example, someone named Talbert Swan, who calls himself a bishop, posted a similar comparison on social media. Again, it received an overwhelmingly positive response. Y'all said a 17-year-old Kyle Wittenhouse was justified in killing 2 people with an AR-15 because he felt threatened. 17-year-old Karmelo Anthony was defending himself when he killed Austin Metcalf with a knife, and y'all think he deserves to go to prison. I wonder why. Alright. Oh, I'm sorry. He put a pun. He said, I wonder white. Oh, how hilarious. You think a bishop who believes, who should believe in, thou shalt not kill, could have a stroke of conscience and be like, well, I don't condone violence at all. But of course, even bishops nowadays have to take a side upon race. But anyway, what's being conflated here again is that Kyle Rittenhouse didn't merely feel threatened. The jury determined correctly that Rittenhouse's fear was objectively reasonable. It was not a pretext. Rittenhouse did not invent his fear in order to kill anyone, nor did he kill anyone because he was had very little impulse control, or because he grew up in a culture that glorified violence. He killed people because they attempted to kill him first, and any responsible person could see that. It was quite literally on video. There was no denying it. The reason these people are making the Rittenhouse comparisons is that they're projecting. They want to glorify racial violence, but they don't want to make it explicit, at least not yet. So instead, they're pretending that white people are already glorifying racial violence. They're even framing black on white violence as a proportionate response. There's another post from someone calling himself Mike Baggs. It racked up like 7 million views and 30,000 positive responses. Whenever white supremacists immediately flood our mentions before the full story is even out, something's up. It turns out Austin Metcalf was the aggressor and the black kid Karmelo Anthony was defending himself. The problem is that Anthony retaliated with a weapon when Metcalf was unarmed. He was basically trying to tell him, like, hey, you're in the wrong tent, please get out of here. And yes, he did probably use some sort of physical way of telling him, like, hey, you need to leave, this isn't your tent. He was trying to get that message across. And because of that, like, men in general, they do get aggressive. Okay? I'm just saying, not all the time, and I'm not blaming men for anything. It's just men, they will use physical contact in order to, get somebody to get out. It's just how men are. They're protective. They were born that way. Not that they want to incite violence. Don't misquote me on that, okay? But as far as Austin dying, he didn't deserve that. He did not deserve that. Whether he was white, black, Hispanic, or Chinese, it doesn't matter. The fact that Anthony basically just threw away the knife, he knew that he did something wrong. He knew he fucked up. So why are people defending him when he knew that he effed up? When he knew that he had to throw away the evidence. He had to get rid of the evidence. You can't say that it was self-defense when there was no real violence at all that was actually being put out there for him to be instigated. Like, he was not aggressive. He was telling, like, hey, man, probably, yeah, did pull on his backpack and say, dude, you gotta get out. This is not your tent. It has nothing to do with color. It has everything to do with that the kid was in the wrong damn tent. Why can't it be that simple? But anyway, everything has to be labeled a certain color now. And I mean, forget about our souls being wrapped in flesh, no matter, you know, what kind of color it is on the outside. You know, Anthony took away a soul. That's the big problem. That shouldn't have never happened. According to this analysis, the person goes to the wrong tent while armed with a deadly weapon and then dares someone to touch him. Is not the final analysis of the aggressor. What's missing is that the analysis is that Metcalf never put Anthony in any fear of his life, reasonable or otherwise. Touching someone's backpack at a track meet or when they're in the wrong tent is not a threat of lethal violence, especially in this context before Anthony was not justified in using lethal force as a response, and Anthony probably knew that, which is why he got rid of the murder weapon. Exactly. And why he asked the police officers if he could possibly have a viable self-defense claim, which is not something you do if you have a viable self-defense claim. But a lot of people seem intent on ignoring these facts. Here's another post with 10 million views and around 800,000 likes. The twins didn't just ask him to leave, they tried to jump him before attacking him, and they tried to take his belongings, broke his phone, stomped on it. Ask yourself, if 200 plus pound attackers came at your child, what would you expect them to do? Karmelo defended himself against violent aggressors. That is not a crime. None of this is true. Austin Metcalf didn't jump anyone. He didn't attempt to steal any belongings, nor did he break anyone's phone. All of that information was contained in a fake Facebook post from someone pretending to be a local chief of police. Anyone with access to Google or who's equipped with basic common sense would have figured out that immediately. But millions of people wanted to believe that this post was true, even though it was obviously fake. And the reason these people wanted to believe this fake information is that when you get down to it, they would support a black person, any black person who kills a white person for any reason. This is the O.J. Simpson's effect, except Carmelo Anthony's isn't famous. He has no pre-existing fan base, and this is the purest form of racial resentment, and now it's on full display. There is no dealing with an honest disagreement about the facts here. We are dealing with people who believe that violence against white people is justified solely on the basis of their skin color. That is why, as of right now, a Give, Send, Go fundraiser for Carmelo Anthony, the man who just stabbed a teenager in the heart and killed him, has raised more than $175,000. Yes, a killer's family, with his official Give, Send, Go, has raised $175,000 to those people. Those people, actual people, not bots or trolls, giving someone money for killing a white kid. Yeah, this is... I want to leave. I want to fucking leave. I want to leave this earth I want to leave. Jesus, can you come now? Like, damn. The fundraising page complains that it's been challenging and a difficult time for Karmelo Anthony's family. It claims the narrative has been spread as false, unjust, and harmful. A similar fundraiser has been taken on a GoFundMe because raising money for a murderer suspects isn't acceptable under the terms of service, but it's apparently fine for Give, Send, Go, the supposedly Christian alternative. What the heck? I'm sorry. Is Give, Send, Go a Christian, like, GoFundMe? That is weird. The reason this is happening, the reason the killer is being celebrated and even funded by a significant number of Americans, is that everything is said on Friday is true. Or everything I said on Friday is true. The culture among the young black males in this country glorifies violence. And in particular, it glorifies violence against white people. That's why young black males are disproportionately violent to a degree that's most impossible to believe. Black people are roughly 12 times more likely to kill a white person and 28 times more likely to get violently assault a white person than another way around. Honestly, I can kind of say that personally. This is what happens when the vast majority of black children are born without present fathers. Oh my God, he went there. It's true though. He did. He went there, but that's good. There's a lot of problems with that. It's what happens when black culture is dominated by degeneracy. And it's what happens when the worst kinds of people are hailed as heroes of the black community. Now it's a kid who stabbed another kid in the heart. In the past, it's been George Floyd, Michael Brown, or any other BLM martyr we might name. If not them, it's rappers and athletes who could be at least objectionable of the bunch, and at least in most cases. But ask yourself, when was the last time a great black man of high moral character, someone who achieved something meaningful, was given the George Floyd or Karmelo Anthony, how do you say that? Hagiography treatment? I have no idea how you say that word. Basically, they're saying, like, why can't someone with moral values get glorified except for, besides criminals? But anyway, you become what you admire, and this is true. True people and cultures when you elevate people like Karmelo Anthony and George Floyd who become like him or become like them. There are great black men and women in the world throughout history. Obviously, just one modern day example is Ben Carson, one of the world's greatest surgeons. His personal story is harrowing and inspiring, and he's been cast out of black culture. Mainstream black culture celebrates George Floyd and Kendrick Lamar far more than it would ever celebrate a man like Carson. But they are good, decent, productive black men and women not celebrated, and they are in fact condemned by the very culture that should be celebrating them. This is what happens with all of the left's victims groups. When you are a victim group, your heroes must be victims. The qualification to become a hero is not that you achieved something, but something bad happened to you, but that something bad happened to you if in reality you did the bad thing to yourself, as was the case with George Floyd, Karmelo Anthony, Michael Brown, and so on. we see a version of this problem in American culture at large. We tore down the statues of our true historical heroes, and now they're being replaced by pop stars and celebrities and assorted degenerates. The end result of this trend, which is continuing even though so many Americans reject it, will be that many more people will die. The country that tolerates racial violence will inevitably descend further and further towards dysfunction and open race warfare. If the BLM types can justify the killing of Austin Metcalf, they can justify the murder of any white man, woman, or child. That is their goal. And that is why they're sending money to the family of Karmelo Anthony and comparing him to Kyle Rittenhouse. And it's why everyone, whether they're white or black, needs to pay attention to where they're living and what schools they're sending their children to until this culture ends. And right now, there is no signs that it will. The consequences of ignorance is simply too great to ignore. And I agree with all of that. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense for criminals to be glorified, besides like people like Martin Luther King, Sojourner Truth, Josephine Baker. Like, they were black activists, and they believed that all men were created equal. Okay? They wanted black people to be treated as equals, and it should be. Okay? Now it has gone to the narrative that black people need to fight white people regardless of if they initiated the violence in order to make a stance on the black community. And I mean, an innocent white child died. That was somebody's son. That was somebody's brother. And the fact that you're glorifying a killer regardless of their color, okay? Like I said, we're all souls wrapped in flesh. I don't believe that color should ever be a component upon anything. But a lot of the time, okay, blacks and whites do this, alright? Let's just get the KKK out of the way, okay? Yes, whites did that, okay? But now the narrative is white people are evil and you're justified in killing them no matter what in the black community. And that's not okay. Violence should never be tolerated, especially in the black community. You all should know that, especially the black community. I'm talking to you. I mean, there's black on black crime as well. You know that. There's hate crimes everywhere in your community. So why on earth are you justifying this happening just because he killed a white child? Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in the trenches next time. Bye.